Hey everyone! So today I'm going to start my first Miranda Muses Minute, which is for English majors, people who like literature, but also people who aren't really into it, and maybe you have to read books like this, The Picture of Dorian Gray, for a high school or a college class, and you just want to learn more about it. You want to kind of get your feet wet and get started. So I'm going to try to make this quick and simple, and I think I said Portrait of Dorian Gray when I mentioned it last time. It's picture. Definitely picture. Sorry, Oscar Wilde, R.I.P. And yeah, let's get started. So speaking of Oscar Wilde, he's the author of this novel. He was incredible, amazing author and playwright. And a quick note actually on his life, he was unfairly persecuted and sentenced to hard labor for being a gay man in his time. So he actually lived a very tragic life after a certain point. And so yeah, his life was really rich and full when he was creating, and then it had a really sad, tragic ending. Incredibly unfortunate. He's buried in Père Lachaise in Paris. Actually, you can visit him because he was able to live out his last few years in Paris, which was great, actually, because what happened to him was just completely unfair. And that kind of explains a little bit about the book to begin with. So, Dorian Gray is sort of an exploration of sensuality and hedonism, right? I mean, it's so much more than that, but if you want to get into a big theme, sensuality, hedonism, living for the aesthetic, like literally, you know, in this house we live and die for the aesthetic, that's Dorian Gray as a character. So for context, Oscar Wilde published this in 1890. When he first published this, it was in a journal. And when it was circulated, without his knowledge, they edited out 500 plus words because they said the content was too scandalous. This made Oscar Wilde super angry because it should. Censorship is never cool. And yeah, but that's how this was viewed in its time. But I think, you know, that's sort of the point, right? I mean, kind of the point of the thing. And I don't think Oscar Wilde's condemning a lot of that stuff just because of, you know, how he talks about youth and beauty in a lot of his writings. But basically, the story goes like this. Dorian Gray is a young man, and he's wealthy, an aristocrat. He's gorgeous, totally beautiful, like a dandy, which at the time was just like a very well-dressed, beautiful young man. He has a friend named Basil Howard. And Basil is like, I'm going to paint your portrait because you are my ultimate muse. His friend Basil, he's an artist. He paints Dorian, and while he's painting Dorian, one of their other friends comes in, and he's just like, hey guys, how you doing? This lord comes in, Henry, and he's like, hey, listen to my spiel about how hedonism is awesome and the only thing in life worth having is youth and beauty. Dorian's like, that tracks, I agree with that. And he's getting his portrait painted. I mean, it's just like, it's also symbolic and like meta in a way, you know, because he's incredibly vain. So, you know, that's how it starts. He gets the portrait painted, and while the portrait is being painted, he gets this idea put in his head that youth and beauty are the only things on earth worth having. And I actually have a part in here where Dorian says that when he gets old, he would kill himself. I'm trying to find exactly where it is in the book, but yeah, like he literally actually says that at one point, that like, you know, yeah, if I ever start aging, I'm going to kill myself. So Dorian starts to think about that while he's getting his portrait painted. And he thinks, hey, I wish this portrait could age instead of me. And boom, there is the rest of the plot for you, basically. So Dorian realizes, after he falls in love with this woman, really screws her over, like spoiler alert, really screws her over, and she kills herself. Sybil Vane was her name. She kills herself. He goes to see, when he's very distressed, and he sees that his portrait has changed. That it has a really cruel kind of snickering sneer on its face now, and that's the first time where he realizes, oh, I got my wish. And so on and so forth, you know, as Vonnegut would say, and so it goes. And so Dorian Gray, it's this story about how, you know, you can have this ugly soul and this beautiful body, you know, like Kanye West says, you know, the prettiest people do the ugliest things. And that's sort of the moral of the story here. I'm not gonna spoil the ending because I really think you guys should actually read this. It's so good. It's not even that long. My edition's a bit longer because it's the Longman Cultural edition, so it has like a lot of footnotes and a lot of like essays and just like things. in it, but this is a great story. Your big themes, like I said, sensuality, hedonism, you know, coming to the age of the dandy and sort of into the modern man. I wrote a paper once about how really you're getting into things about modern psychology, that had sort of become a talking point, narcissism, the God complex. So it's an exploration of all that, and it's Oscar Wilde, so it has this beautiful, lovely imagery, you know, this very like sensual, beautiful, flowery imagery that I just love, that he's known for, that he just was the master at. So you guys should definitely read this. It's so good. As you can see, sticky noted the heck out of my version here. I make notes in all of my books. That makes some of you cringe probably, but I think my fellow English majors will understand the need to make notes in books. So anyways, yeah, Picture of Dorian Gray. Read it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to message me. I can circulate the paper I wrote. It's like, you know, totally fine to do that. It's not under any type of, you know, duress or anything. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, want to talk about this book, or just like want to know more about what I wrote about it, or whatever, just for study purposes or fun purposes, let me know. Leave a comment. Thanks, guys.